All right, Shalom. I'd like to start up by saying Kah Halayim La Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Harakah Kodash Ma'amah. Double honors to the elder apostles, the great millstone of my older hero one as well. Salutation to the Akim that are pushing his truth, his sincerity, and truth. And peace and blessings to the men, women, and children that believe in the name of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. All right, I'm Kanak San Ban Yasharala from the Lions in the Yasharala camp. And this is kind of in the continuation of a lesson that I did yesterday. And basically, entering into the straits. Because yea, though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we shall fear no evil, because Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai is with us. And understanding that, we all will understand the affliction that we're going to go through in this place, being in this dark place, being a shining light or a guiding light in this dark place. How the darkness tries to consume the light. But we're protected under the covering of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. So it's better for us to be in these dangerous situations, because Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai is going to show his glory upon us with deliverance. As long as we maintain faith in Yahweh Shai. So we want to enter into to adversity or affliction in order to make it to the kingdom, man. As a matter of fact, I want to get this scripture real quick. Zephaniah chapter 3. I think it's verse 12. Yeah. Zephaniah 3 and 12. All right. It says, I will also leave in the midst of thee an afflicted and poor people, and they shall trust in the name of the Lord. That afflicted and poor people is the elect, man. And that affliction is that they're enduring is going through the straits, not trying to take the easy road to salvation, but entering in through the doorway through Yahweh Shai, which ultimately is going to lead you to affliction. But that purging is purification of the spirit, and patience being developed according to in the flesh and in the spirit. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak, man. So we go through this persecution, affliction, purging the flesh, man. All right, learning to live according to the spirit, not according to the flesh, and having patience in Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. All right, so back to started out with Matthew's, by understanding that the Lord shall leave in the midst of all this, a poor and afflicted people that shall trust in the name of the Lord. And that's what we're going to trust in, the name of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. All right, the name of your Lord is a strong tower. Those that are the righteous running into it and are safe. All right, so now I want to start it out with Matthew chapter 7, verse 13. It says, enter ye in the straight gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go and thereat. Because straight is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it, man. So entering through that doorway, which is Yahweh Shai, and ultimately that he's going to lead you to salvation through the spirit. But it's not an easy road, man. It's not an easy road at all. From there, I want to go to Sirach chapter 2. It says, my son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. Right. If you enter into the straits, man, prepare thy soul for temptation, meaning tests, trial periods, affliction. That's the way to the Lord. It says, set thy heart aright, and constantly endure, and make not haste in the time of trouble. Those troublous times is going to try to make you move in haste and lose faith in Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. All right? But that's why we got to set our mind on right. Set our mind on Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. All right, it says, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate, right? So having patience and endurance all the way to the end, right? Even though we're brought low, the Lord's going to lift us up. So anytime you go through an adverse situation in the Lord and you feel like you're being brought down, brought low, that's because the Lord's about to lift you up to some extraordinary level, you know, and He gives you a sense of humbleness before He does that. All right. So whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully. 3, cleave unto Him, and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at that last end. All right. So this is our last end, man. All right. It says, and the Lord's going to increase us. It says, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. And that's the point. So through this purification period, going through the straits, right, there's testing the metal. The Lord is testing the metal, as the elder likes to say, testing the metal, see what's going to burn. And if you're not of pure gold, you're going to burn up in that adversity. So you got individuals that pretty much in their spirit know that, so they don't want to enter into the straits. They rather take the easy road. IUIC. They have abundance of money and thinking that's the way to their salvation, hollering law, 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 making the merchandise of the Father's church making the church a place of merchandise, and ultimately that's going to lead them to their destruction. And that's a broad way that they display, all right, in deception. So like to the untrained eye, to the naked or uncovered eye, you would think that that's the way to go. Just like Christianity, another broad way that's going to lead to destruction, man. And you can tell IUIC is a somewhat of a form of Christianity, man. You know. So read it again. Sirach 2 and 5. It says, "For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity." Well, now, so gold is tried in the fire, right? You know, and that's the purification process that we have to go through when we enter into the straits to make it to the kingdom. Like all the metal that comes through this path is going to be tested to see how much gold is of it, or see how much other impure metals on that needs to be burnt off. But ultimately, that's what must need to be done in order for us to obtain salvation. All right. From there, I want to go to 2nd Ezra chapter 7. So the Lord say, "Enter ye into the straits." All right. Let me see. All right. It says 2nd Ezra chapter 7. Let's start at verse 1. It says, this is Ezra's talking to the angel. All right. It says, I'm not sure if it's Uriel, but it says, "When I had made an end of speaking these words, there was sent unto me the angel which had been sent unto me nice afar. And he said unto me, Up, Esdras, and hear the words that I come to tell thee. And I said, Speak on, my God. Then said he unto me, The sea is set in a wide place, that it might be deep and great. But put the case that the entrance were narrow and like a river. Who then shall go into the sea to look upon it and to rule it? If he went not through the narrow, how could he come to the broad, unto the broad?" And that's what the Yahushua was telling us, man. Like, you know, the people that go in through the broad ways, they want paradise now, but we're not in the time of paradise. That was taken away through sin way back in the beginning in Genesis. Because what this is going to go into is that in the beginning, broad was the way, but through sin, that broad way to paradise was made narrow. That you have to go through a process in order to get there, in order for it to be obtainable forever. We have to go through this purification process in through the straight gates to be, because it was broad, it was wide open from the beginning, but us not having the understanding that's being created in us now, we didn't know how to hold on to that, and sin got in the way and made the ways of the to the broad narrow. All right, and this is what's being explained. All right, so the Lord is telling you, if we want to make it to the broad, if we want to make it back to paradise, to the kingdom, you got to enter in through the straits, man, through the affliction, get an understanding, get purified of the unprecious metals that might be tied onto us. So we have to go through this affliction. And it says, verse 2 Ezra 7:5 again. It says, who then could go into the sea to look upon it and to rule it, if he went not through the narrow? And how could he come into the broad? Right. So the angel's going to explain it even more, man. He said, verse 6, there is also another thing. A city is built and set upon a broad field and full of all good things. All right. And that city is New Jerusalem in the kingdom. All right. Full of all good things. It says the entrance thereof is narrow and set in a dangerous place to fall, like as if there were water, or as if there were a fire on the right hand, and on the left a deep water. Right, and that's the narrow, straight path with adversity and affliction, right, on either side. But it's so narrow. All right, it says, verse 8. Let's do 7 again, Salakia. It says, 2 Ezra 7:7, it says, the entrance thereof is narrow and set in a dangerous place to fall, like as if there were a fire on the right hand, and on the left a deep water. And only one path between them both. Right. Lord willing, post-production, right, I want to have a still of a picture that shows a road divided, right? And in that division of that road, like, you have one person veering off to the to one part of the road, which is the hard path. Then you have multiples of people veering off to the other side, which is the easy road. But the Lord is telling us not to take the easy road out, because it's going to ultimately lead to the destruction. All right? Lead them to, whoever takes that easy road, it's going to lead them to that destruction, man. That's to come on this place. All right? 2 Ezra 7:8, it says, and one only path between them both, even between the fire and the water, so small that there could but one man go there at once. Right. That's why ultimately we have to work out our own salvation through fear and trembling. But understanding this, as we walk through this path, even though it's only one man that can go at once, it's in a single file line. So those that are behind you, as long as we stay strict in order to this path, those that are behind you can walk accordingly and be right on track. Even though we work out our own salvation through fear and trembling, us being examples of what righteousness is being and giving our testimonies, doing this work, is a light to the path of others. As Yahushua is a light to our path. Meaning the ones that get to the water first are telling the ones that got to it after how to drink. You know? So through the Spirit of the Lord entering into these straits, we become examples on the ones that follow on how to develop patience and endurance and discipline. All right? Verse 9. It says, if this city now were given unto a man for an inheritance, if he never shall pass the danger set before it, how shall he receive this inheritance? Right. I mean, how do we expect to receive salvation if we're not willing to do what it takes to obtain that? You know, if we're not willing to make our bodies a living sacrifice for Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, couldn't out here and do this work. All right, ushering, hastening the day of the coming of our Lord. You know, what are we? Even within that, it's still not. We're still not worthy, because salvation is a gift. Because our righteousness is as filthy rags. So we want to obtain the righteousness through Yahweh Shai, having faith in Yahweh Shai. In order to do that, we have to enter in through these straits, man. 2 Ezra 7:9 again, it says, if this city now were given unto a man for an inheritance, if he never shall pass the danger set before it, how shall he receive this inheritance? He said, all right, so now, if we're not willing to go through that, how can we obtain the kingdom, man? The scripture said, through much tribulation shall they inherit the kingdom of heaven. Through the tribulations, that's how we inherit the kingdom of heaven. So if you're not willing to go through it, you're not trying to obtain. So the ones that are not trying to go through the affliction are not trying to obtain the kingdom of heaven. And some affliction might not be as much as others. Some people might have a heart, and it's just all according to how Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua built you, and how he measured your level of faith, that you would be able to, and based upon what you would be able to endure. All right, as we go down this road. All right. Verse 10, it says, I said, it is so, Lord. Then he said unto me, even so as is Israel's portion. Because their sakes I made the world, and when Adam transgressed my statutes, then was decreed that is now. Right. For the world was made for our sake. In the beginning it was a paradise, and it was made for our sakes. We were called the sons of God at that time, the Adamites. But through transgression, right, here we are today, trying to get back to that paradise. But we have to go. We have to go through hell to get there. We got to go through the affliction to get back to our righteous state where we once were, understanding the state that we were that we didn't understand in the beginning. Verse 11 again, it says, because for their sake I made the world, and Adam transgressed my statutes, then was decreed that is now. Then were the interests of this world made narrow, full of sorrow and travail. They are but few and evil, but full of perils and very painful. Right. It is, man. It's painful being a man of the Lord. It's very painful. It's painful being a woman of the Lord. But that pain has an ultimate glorious reward. Just like when you work out, if you don't feel any pain the next day or soreness, you don't feel like you did enough. You don't feel like you're going to get the results that you're trying to obtain. It's the same thing being in this truth. Understanding this, that the Lord gave us the ample amount of faith to endure the things that he's already put in our path that we're going to have to endure. He doesn't need any convincing because he's the one that made us. We need to be convinced. So he's putting us through that, purging us, putting it on the level of righteousness, and creating us in the image of his son, so that when he views us, he doesn't see our filthy garments. We have on a new garment, the covering of the Spirit of Yahweh Shai. But in order to get there, we have to enter in through the straits. We don't have to do as much as Yahweh Shai did, but ultimately giving our bodies a living sacrifice, getting out here and do this work, And the sacrifice that the women and children make is the faith and believing. Verse 12, it says, then were the interests of this world made narrow, full of sorrow and travail. They are but few and evil, full of perils and very painful. For the interests of the elder world were made wide and sure and brought immortal fruit. Right. Because we used to live for a long time at that time, And we're in the sense of paradise. But through sin came death. It says, if then they that labor not to enter these straits and vain things, they can never receive those that are laid up for them. Right. If we don't enter into the straits, we can never receive it. You know? You know? So I'm read it again. It says, if they that live labor not to enter these straits and vain things, they can never receive those that are laid up for them, man. And that's the point. So that's why the Lord told us, enter ye into the straits, man. He was protecting us. I know the world, I know the direction that we know the direction that he's pointing in looks very dangerous, but ultimately that's the safest road for us to travel, all right, to enter into the kingdom of heaven. All right, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying to serve this purpose. With that, I'd like to say, Ka Halayim La Yahweh, Ba Hashem Yahweh Shai, Ba Hashem Harakak Wadash Ma'amath. Double honors to the elder apostles, the great millstone, and my elder here at Juan as well. Salutations to the Akim that are pushing the truth and sincerity and truth. And peace and blessings to the men, women, and children that believe in the name of Yahweh Ba Hashem Yahweh Shai. Shalom.